The steakhouse table is set like a magazine spread, and everyone's smiling like the night is already theirs. I sat down dressed sharp, calm as a locked toolbox because I didn't come to celebrate. I came to end the story they've been writing for me. Dallas is polished better than most cities. The valet stands like a soldier. The hostess has teeth too white to be real. The steakhouse smells like butter, oak smoke, and money that's never had grease under its nails. I walk in wearing a dark jacket that fits right, boots cleaned, watch simple. I don't do flashy things. Flashy is for people trying to be believed. I already know what's true. There at the back. My wife's family always needs the right table. Like the wrong one might lower their bloodline. Diane Caldwell spots me first. She's all smooth posture and controlled eyes. The kind of woman who says your name like it's a job title she's not impressed with. "Jack," she says, smiling without warmth. "There you are." Hannah stands and kisses my cheek like a habit, not a choice. Her perfume is familiar in a way that makes my jaw tighten. She looks good. She always looks good. It's part of the brand. My father-in-law clears his throat, already tired. He nods like he's clocking in for another shift of keeping the peace. Two cousins I barely know give me polite nods. Everyone's dressed like the point of the night is to be seen. A server pours water into glasses like a ceremony. The table glows under low-light white cloth, heavy silverware, wine glasses catching reflections. It's perfect. That's what Diane loves. Surfaces. "You made it," Hannah says, sliding into her seat. Her hand touches my forearm for half a second. It's the kind of touch meant for witnesses. I sit down slowly. Calm is a decision. Tonight, I'm all decisions. Diane launches into compliments about the restaurant, the private room, the wonderful news they're celebrating. Her voice is bright, her eyes working the table like a board meeting. Every few words, she glances at me to see if I'm playing along. I nod when it's required. I keep my face neutral. I let them order their expensive sides and talk about people I've never met and don't care about. They build the night the way they build everything, carefully, confidently, assuming nobody will challenge the script. Under the table, my phone is heavy in my pocket. Not because of its weight, because of what's inside it. Proof doesn't have a tone. Proof doesn't get emotional. Proof doesn't get talked over by a mother-in-law with perfect manners and sharp intentions. I look at Hannah's ring catching the light. I remember putting it on her finger, thinking it meant something solid. Thinking consistency would be enough. Thinking love was work, and work was sacred. Diane raises her glass. "To family," she says, smiling wider now. "To the future." The word future hangs there like bait. I raise my glass with them. I even let the rim touch my lips. Then I set it down gently, like I'm putting away a tool. And I think clear as a bell. No more begging to be accepted. Tonight, I tell the truth out loud. I wasn't the guy posting anniversary captions like a politician. I didn't need strangers to witness my marriage for it to be real. I believed in quiet loyalty, the kind you don't talk about because talking about it feels like asking for credit. Hannah liked pretty things. Not in a greedy way, at least not at first. She liked clean lines, fresh flowers, and reservations made early. She liked menus without surprises. She hated cilantro and anything too garlicky. And I memorized it the way you memorize torque specs because it mattered to her, so it mattered to me. I did the late-night pharmacy runs when she got migraines. I learned which tea helped and which one she pretended to like. When she'd get anxious before one of her family events, I'd press my hand to the back of her neck and just stand there until her breathing settled. I didn't fix her problems with speeches. I showed up. I stayed. There was a winter when her car battery kept dying and she was embarrassed about it. Like being inconvenienced was a moral failure in that world. I replaced it myself in our driveway, cold biting through my knuckles, and she watched from the porch wrapped in a blanket like I was performing something noble. I wasn't. It was just what you do when you're building a life with someone. You handle the small stuff before it becomes big stuff. I worked long hours at the shop. Not because I loved missing dinners, but because I loved paying our bills without fear. I loved knowing the mortgage wasn't a question mark. I loved buying her the kind of calm her family had always rented with money. That was my definition of security. consistency, sacrifice, a man doing what he says he'll do even when nobody's watching. Her family had a different definition. Their love came with optics. Their loyalty came with conditions. They talked about relationships the way people talk about investments: potential, alignment, future. Diane would smile and ask about my shop like she was interviewing me for a position I already held. And Hannah lived in both worlds. With me, she'd soften. She'd curl against my side on the couch and talk about dumb shows and laugh at stuff that wasn't funny. She'd say she liked that I was real. That word mattered to me. Real meant you didn't run when things got hard. I thought our marriage was solid because I treated it like something sacred, like a promise you protect even when it's inconvenient. I didn't see that to them. Marriage wasn't sacred. It was a ladder. And the worst part is, I truly believed my steady love could outlast their shallow noise. I didn't understand yet that consistency looks like weakness to people who only respect leverage. I own an auto shop in Dallas. Not a hobby garage with neon signs and weekend guys. A real place: lifts, inventory, payroll, customers who expect the work done right the first time. I built it the slow way. Started with one bay, a used toolbox, and a phone that never stopped ringing because I made sure it didn't. No family money, no safety net, just long days and a stubborn refusal to go back to being broke. The funny thing is, rich people will hand you keys to a car that costs more than your house and still talk to you like you're temporary. They'll say, "My guy will take care of it," while making it clear you're not their guy outside that transaction. That's how Diane Caldwell treated me from day one. Family dinners at their place weren't dinners. They were evaluations. Diane would ask questions with perfect manners: where my shop was located, how many employees I had at the moment, whether I'd considered expanding, like she was offering a tip instead of poking for weaknesses. Then she'd slide in the knife. "Oh, Jack," she'd say with a soft laugh, "you must be exhausted. That kind of work is so demanding." Demanding, like it was something low, something that would eventually wear me out and leave Hannah stranded. Like my hands were proof I wasn't fit to sit at her table. Hannah would go quiet when Diane did it. She'd look down at her plate, then change the subject, then later, always later, she'd apologize in the car like that erased what happened. "I'm sorry," she'd say, voice small. "She doesn't mean it like that." But Diane always meant it like that. She just wrapped it in linen and silver. And every time Hannah smoothed it over instead of stopping it, the message got clearer. I was allowed to be her husband as long as I didn't embarrass them by noticing I was being treated like less. That was the pattern. Polished insult. Hannah's silence. I swallowed it because I thought it was the price of keeping peace. I didn't realize peace was just the word they used for my compliance. Diane introduced Ethan the way people introduce upgrades. Not directly. Never rude. Just constant. "Ethan Sterling was asking about you," she'd say to Hannah over salad like it was casual. "He's doing so well. Such a steady trajectory." The words always came with a glance at me. Quick, polite, loaded. First, I shrugged it off. Dallas has 1,000 Ethans. Rich families collect them like business cards. I figured it was just Diane's hobby. Comparing. Then Ethan started showing up. A restaurant we picked on a whim. He was there, already seated with friends, waving like we were old buddies. A rooftop bar after a long week. He was standing at the rail, laughing too loud, holding court like the place belonged to him. A small fundraiser Diane insisted we attend. Ethan was on the committee, right where he could be placed across from Hannah, close enough to talk without raising voices. Diane acted surprised every time. "Oh, Ethan, what a coincidence." It wasn't. He was handsome in a clean, expensive way. Not strong. Not capable. Just polished. The kind of guy whose hands never hurt. He spoke in confident little statements like he was used to rooms bending toward him. And Hannah, my Hannah, started changing in small ways that didn't feel like her. She'd repeat his phrases. "It's about positioning," she said once. Like she'd just read it in a brochure. She started asking me questions that sounded rehearsed. "Do you ever worry you're limiting yourself?" she asked one night, careful with the words. Like, "Maybe you're too comfortable. Like my 12-hour days and busted knuckles were a recliner. When I finally called it out, quiet, direct, she flipped it on me without blinking. "You're being insecure," she said, eyes sharp. "Ethan's just a friend. My mom likes him. That doesn't mean anything." Then she hit me with the worst part, the look that said my instincts were a character flaw. It makes you check yourself. Makes you wonder if you're seeing shadows because you're tired. Makes you debate your own gut like it's a courtroom argument. But my gut wasn't guessing. It was recognizing a pattern. A man being introduced like a replacement, one coincidence at a time, while my wife was being nudged, gently, politely, toward a different life. And every time I noticed, they acted like noticing was the problem. Diane treated the Dallas charity circuit like it was a church. Same faces, same handshakes, same smiles that meant nothing. She'd planned for weeks. Dress fittings, seating charts, talking points. Like the point wasn't helping anybody, but proving she belonged at the center of the room. "The Caldwell name is attached to this," she told Hannah like it was a sacred duty. "We can't look disorganized. We. Like my marriage was a department in her company. I wasn't supposed to miss that gala. I knew it. Hannah knew it. Diane made sure the whole city would know it. Then my brother called. His voice was wrong. Tight. Fast. He didn't give details, just said he needed me now, and that it wasn't safe for him to stay where he was. I've heard fear in a man's voice before. You don't ignore it. You don't negotiate it. I told Hannah I couldn't go. Her face changed in a way that still burns when I think about it, like she was calculating how it would look before she cared why it happened. "You're serious?" she asked. "I'm going," I said. "He needs me." She swallowed, then nodded like she was being noble. "Fine, I'll go without you. But you owe me, Jack. Do you understand what this is for my family?" There it was, the invoice. I drove out to get my brother and didn't check my phone much after that. I was in problem-solving mode. Get him out. Get him safe. Handle what needed handling. That night, Hannah sent photos. Her in a black dress, perfect hair, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Her arm linked with Diane. Her next to Ethan Sterling in one shot. Diane between them, of course, like an innocent buffer. I stared at that picture longer than I should have. Ethan's hand wasn't on Hannah, but he was angled toward her like he belonged there. Hannah looked practiced, like she'd been told how to stand. I texted, "Who took this?" She replied fast, "A photographer." Stop being weird. The tone was off. Too sharp. Too quick to accuse. Hannah used to soften things, even when she was mad. This felt like someone was protecting a decision. Later, I texted, "How's it going?" No answer. An hour passed. Then 2. I told myself the music was loud. She was busy. She didn't see it. But the silence the next morning wasn't normal silence. It wasn't sleep in silence. It was to avoid silence. The kind you can feel under your skin. When she finally called, her voice was light, like she was stepping around broken glass. "Hey," she said. "Long night. How'd it go?" I asked. A pause. Not long, but long enough. "It was fine," she said. "Nothing happened." Nobody says nothing happened unless something did. I didn't push on the phone. I didn't argue. I just listened, let her hang herself with her own careful words, and I felt the first clean click in my head. A door closing. Because the night loyalty mattered more than appearances, she chose appearances. And that choice had a schedule. Hannah showed up at my shop on a Tuesday like she owned the place. Not the office, out on the floor, past the lifts, past the guys working, heels clicking on stained concrete like she didn't notice what it took to keep the lights on. My crew looked up, then looked away. Nobody likes being near a married argument that hasn't started yet. She held a small white bag in her hand. Pharmacy logo. "Can we talk?" she asked, already smiling like she was about to hand me a gift. I wiped my hands on a rag and walked her toward my office. I didn't touch her. I didn't ask what was wrong. I just watched her face. The way her eyes kept darting like she was checking angles. Inside, she shut the door and turned. Breath quick. "I'm pregnant," she said. For half a second my body tried to react the way it was trained to. Joy, pride, the whole dumb movie script. Then the timeline hit. Gala night, the silence, the picture with Ethan. Her nothing happened. The sudden glow in her voice now, like she'd rehearsed this moment in the mirror. I kept my face calm. I nodded once like I just heard a routine update. Okay, I said. How far along? She blinked. What? How far? I repeated gently. Weeks. She gave me a number like she'd memorized it. Like it mattered that it fit. And it would have fit perfectly if I didn't have a private fact sitting in my bones like steel. 2 years earlier, I'd gotten a vasectomy. Quiet, practical, not dramatic. A decision Hannah said she supported because we were focused on building. I'd done the follow-ups. I had the records. I had the labs. I had the proof. So when she said pregnant, I didn't feel blessed. I felt drafted. I heard what she wasn't saying. Play your role. Sign your name. Raise the consequence like it's yours. I reached across the desk and squeezed her hand like a good husband. That's a lot, I said, keeping my voice steady. We'll handle it. Relief flashed across her face so fast it almost made me laugh. And right there, watching her relax, I understood the truth cleanly. She wasn't just unfaithful. She was trying to trap me into swallowing it. After the shop visit, I stopped asking myself how I felt and started asking what I could prove. That's the difference between a man trying to save something and a man trying to survive it. Hannah left her phone on the kitchen counter one night while she showered. I didn't snatch it like a guilty kid. I picked it up like a mechanic picking up a part that's been making noise for months. Calm, careful, ready to confirm what I already suspected. Her passcode was the same as always. Of course it was. Hannah loved patterns. She just didn't love honesty. I didn't scroll for drama. I searched for names. Ethan. The messages weren't romantic. They were worse. Efficient. A voice memo sat in the thread, dated the night of the gala. I tapped it and held the phone away from my face like it might burn me. Hannah's voice came through, low and breathy, not scared, excited. I know, she said. It can't happen again. I needed it. And the timing, if I'm careful, Jack will think it's his. He won't question it. My throat tightened, but my hands stayed steady. Proof does that. It takes the fight out of your imagination and puts it into a file. Then I found the second layer. A group chat. Diane Caldwell. Marlene Sterling. 2 women exchanging messages like they were negotiating real estate. Diane. He's sweet, but he isn't secure. Marlene. Ethan needs a wife that fits. Hannah will be fine once she's not distracted. Diane. We just have to get her through this transition cleanly. Transition. Like I was a job she was leaving. I took screenshots of everything. I emailed them to myself from an account Hannah didn't know existed. I saved the voice memo. I backed it up twice. Then I pulled my medical records, vasectomy paperwork, follow-up tests, clean, dated, undeniable. I made a folder on my laptop and labeled it like a case file. Because I wasn't walking into an argument. I was walking into an exposure. And I decided where it would happen. A table full of people who lived for appearances. Fine. They wanted a performance. I had receipts. Back at the table, the server sets down appetizers like nothing in the world is wrong. Diane talks about the charity gala like it was a coronation. Hannah keeps her smile in place, but she keeps checking my eyes the way you check a weather report. They're relaxed because they think I'm cornered. Pregnancy does that. It makes a man careful. It makes him swallow things. I let the talk roll. I let the glasses clink. I let Diane run the room. Then I reach into my jacket pocket and set a small speaker on the table, right next to the bread basket. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's just their black, simple, solid. Diane's smile flickers. What's that? A voice, I say. Hannah's posture stiffens like a wire got pulled. I tap my phone once. The speaker crackles, and then Hannah's voice fills the space between our plates. Low, clear, unmistakable. I know the timing. If I'm careful, Jack will think it's his. The table goes cold in a way no air conditioning can do. Hannah reaches for the speaker like she can grab sound out of the air. I slide it back, calm, keeping it just out of her reach. No wrestling, no scene, just control. Diane's face tightens. My father-in-law stares down at his napkin like it might explain this away. I don't raise my voice. I don't need to. Next, I lay my phone on the table and scroll through the screenshots. Diane and Marlene Sterling texting like this marriage was a project plan. I angle the screen so Diane can read her own words. He's sweet, but he isn't secure. She doesn't blink. She just goes still like a woman caught mid-calculation. Then I place one more thing on the table. A sealed envelope. My medical records, I say. Vasectomy. 2 years ago. Follow-ups included. Hannah's face drains. Not because she's sorry. Because the trap doesn't work anymore. Nobody speaks. Not because they're respectful, because there's nothing left to argue. I stand up, smooth my jacket, and slide cash under my plate for my share. I'm done, I say, looking at Hannah once. Congratulations on your future. Then I walk out without yelling, without begging, without asking anyone to understand. I step into the Dallas night and feel something I haven't felt in a long time. Clean air, clean truth, clean exit. The next morning, I open my shop like normal. That's what people don't understand about men like me. You can have your whole marriage detonate at a white tablecloth restaurant and still need to make payroll on Friday. Still need to call parts suppliers. Still need to show up for customers who don't care about your personal life. They just want their truck back by 5. My guys knew something happened. They didn't ask. They just worked. There's respect in that kind of silence. No pity, no gossip. Just space. By noon, my phone started ringing like a debt collector had my number. Hannah called first. I watched it buzz on the desk and let it stop. Then again. Then again. I didn't block her. Blocking is emotional. I just didn't pick up. I wasn't going to argue with a woman who'd already proven she could say anything with a straight face. Diane called once. A voicemail followed. Her voice was controlled, but there was a tremble under it. Like her world had shifted and she couldn't find the floor. Jack, she said, using my name like she could still manage me. We need to speak privately. This isn't appropriate. You've embarrassed Hannah. That was the part that almost made me laugh. How fast she grabbed the word embarrassed and tried to make it mine. Like the truth was bad manners. Then my father-in-law called. He didn't leave a voicemail. He called again later, and when I finally answered, he didn't start with anger. He started with exhaustion. Jack, he said, and his voice sounded older than the last time I'd heard it. I'm sorry. I didn't say anything. I just listened. I should have stopped this a long time ago, he went on. I saw the way Diane pushed. I let it happen because it was easier than fighting her. That's on me. There was a pause, and I could hear him swallow. A man swallowing shame is a quiet sound, but you know it when you hear it. I don't expect you to forgive us, he said. I just needed you to know you weren't crazy. You weren't imagining it. That mattered more than any apology from Diane ever could. Not because it fixed anything, but because it confirmed what I'd lived. I'd been set up in a room full of smiling faces, and I'd been expected to accept it as normal. I'm filing, I said. I figured, he replied. No argument, just resignation. Whatever you need from me. Documents, statements. Tell me. I didn't ask him for anything. I didn't need his help to end something his family had already poisoned. But I heard something in his voice that night at the steakhouse too. Like he'd watched the whole machine run for years and never had the spine to shut it off. Now he did. Ethan Sterling vanished the way people like him always vanish. Clean and quick, like he'd never been there. No calls. No messages. No brave man-to-man conversation. No standing in the mess he helped make. The minute the situation stopped being flattering and became inconvenient, he evaporated. That told me everything I needed to know about the kind of man he was. Loud in the spotlight, silent in the consequences. Hannah's social world didn't rally around her. It stepped back. People like Diane collect relationships the way they collect objects, useful until they're risky. Once the story got messy, once the whispers started, The same crowd that smiled at galas suddenly had busy schedules. Invitations dried up. Friends stopped answering quickly. The perfect world she'd grown up in had one rule above all others: protect the image. And Hannah had become an image problem. I didn't enjoy that. Not the way I thought I might. Revenge feels good in theory. In real life, it's heavy. You carry it around and it stains your hands. What felt good was simpler. Waking up and knowing I wasn't going to swallow lies for breakfast anymore. My lawyer handled the paperwork. I gave him the evidence. He didn't ask me if I was sure. Men in his line of work know what certainty looks like. He told me what to expect, what to document, what not to say in writing. I did everything clean. I didn't rant. I didn't threaten. I didn't play games. I went back to being the man I was before I started trying to earn a seat at the Caldwell table. Work, gym, sleep, repeat. Some nights were quieter than I liked. The house felt too big. I'd catch myself reaching for my phone out of habit, like I was about to text Hannah something small. Need anything? Want food? And then I'd remember who she'd been when she thought she had me trapped. That memory would settle it. A few weeks later, I met Megan Lawson. Not in a dramatic way. No music. No fate. She brought her SUV into the shop because the AC was dying, and she didn't talk to me like I was a service she was renting. She looked me in the eye, told me what the car was doing, and listened when I explained the fix. When I gave her the estimate, she didn't act offended. She didn't ask if I could do better like it was a game. She just nodded and said, "Fair. Do it right." That sentence hit harder than any compliment I'd gotten from Diane in my entire marriage. Megan came back to pick up the car and asked how my week was, like it was a real question. I told her the truth, light version. Busy. Life shift. She didn't pry. She didn't angle for gossip. She just said, "I get it." Like she actually did, and left me with that. It wasn't romance. Not at first. It was respect. It was calm. It was a woman who didn't treat my work like a flaw she had to polish out of me. Months passed. The divorce moved forward. The pregnancy moved forward too, somewhere over there in a life that was no longer mine. Then Hannah showed up again. Late pregnancy. Different posture. Less sparkle. No confident smile. She stood in my office doorway like someone who'd finally run out of leverage and didn't know what else to use. "Jack," she said, voice thin. "Can we talk?" I looked at her for a long moment, not with hatred, just with clarity. She was the same person in a different stage of consequences. "I made a mistake," she said quickly. I don't know what I was thinking. "My mom." "Stop," I said calm. She froze. "This isn't your mother," I told her. "This is you. You chose it." Her eyes filled, but I didn't move. Tears don't rewrite timelines. Tears don't change voice memos. "I want to fix it," she whispered. "We can start over. Please." There was a time that word please would have hooked me. The old me would have tried to be noble, tried to salvage. I tried to carry her back from the edge like it made me strong. But strength isn't swallowing poison. Strength is setting the cup down. "No," I said, not cruel, not loud, just final. "I'm not your clean landing anymore." She stared at me like she didn't understand a world where I wasn't available on demand. "I'm not trying to punish you," I added. "I'm just choosing a life that doesn't come with tests and traps and silence." She opened her mouth, then closed it. For the first time, she didn't have an angle. I stood and opened the office door. "Take care of yourself," I said. "But you do it without me." She walked out slowly, like someone leaving a building after a fire, still expecting the structure to stand. When the door clicked shut, I didn't feel victory. I felt peace. And that's the best ending I could have asked for. Not revenge, not noise. Just a quiet life with people who respect me. And a kind of love that doesn't require a trial to prove it's real.
Subscribe and stay one step ahead of cheaters. And trust me, the next story makes this one look like a fairy tale.